Hi everyone! In this second part of Vellum Hair's tutorials, we are going to explore two ways to make these awesome abstract hair or fabric animations. First, we are going to start by exploring a simple technique to make this wave effect on the hairs. After that, we are going to understand a little bit more how the hair gen and guides work in order to make them move and behave in an organic way, creating this mesmerizing circular animation. And don't forget, we are exploring techniques to achieve these awesome complex looks in the most simple and light way possible. So if you have a low spec computer or you are just starting with Houdini, you will be able to follow along and explore these amazing features Houdini can offer. So let's jump into this second part, and I hope you enjoy this one. Okay, so let's start with the first one, with those wave on hairs. So let's do the same principle, use the same nodes as the previous one. Okay, so let's place our geo. Let's call it hairs. Okay, let's dive in. And this time, instead of using a circle, let's use a rectangle. In this case, it's called grid. Let's use a grid. Okay, let's zoom out a little bit. Let's use 10 by 2. Okay, something like that. Let's move it up a little bit. Maybe, move up on Y, maybe 10. And let's place a null and call it base geo. And then let's use our hair generator to work as guides. So hair gen, and let's decrease this to 50. Remember, those will work as guides, so don't use guides. And here I want length, let's go with 20. Now they are going up because when you use hair generator, hair gen, it is going to add splines depending on the normals of your base geometry, right? So our normals, if I tweak like this, you can see the normals are going up. So in this case, we can just rotate this. I think it's on Y. Just rotate them. Oops, not here, maybe here. On the X. Just rotate 180 to move them down. Simple. Then now our hairs will go down. Pretty simple. Let's give them colors like we did on the previous tutorial. So I'm just going to copy the same node. Remember this attribute VOP. Copy paste this one here. So let me recap what we did. We use a turbulence. This is the primitive VOP. Okay, this is working on primitives. So depending on the position of our primitive, our splines, our hair, we are linking a ramp and that ramp to a color. Then we go with this color, this ramp, and these parameters for this one to have these cool gradients. Pretty simple. And remember what we did, we created a VDB to pin those points, because if we link that to a solver now, the hairs will fall down and we want to pin the first ones. So on this tutorial, I'm going to show you two ways to pin the first points, but let's do again the first one that we did on the previous tutorial. So remember, we need to extrude, because right now we don't have thickness here. So let's extrude just a little bit. Output back, so we now have a cool thickness. VDB from polygons to convert this to a volume. Cool. Remember, we need to dilate it a little bit. 1 is cool. And then now we can use a group. We want to group points, right? And let's call it pin points. And disable this and keep in bonding regions and use the volume now on the second input. Now, as you can see, we are grouping those first points. This is one way in the The next animation, I'm going to show you another way to pin points with the group range. For now, let's go with this one. Let's go with Vellum Hair. And now let's put a solver. Oops. Solver. And let's link everything. So now let me press O to turn off that. So now we need to come here on pinpoints. Remember, link that pinpoints. We don't need to match animation because on this one we don't want to move those pinpoints. So if I press play now, I'm going to switch the density just for this tutorial. Okay, just to be faster on my computer while recording, and I'm recording now on 4K, so let me know if everything works fine and the resolution is good and quality is good. So now I switch to density and let's see how it works. Pretty cool. As you can see, they are like expanding and trying to get away from each one. And I've been struggling with this in the past, but I think the main problem is here on thickness. If I put visualize thickness, you can see those blue spheres, right? And they are really big for hairs. Okay, I think that's because it is using the P scale, and we don't have P scale now, and it is adding a lot of thickness. So one way to override this is here on thickness. Let's use set uniform. So now, as you can see, the thickness is really small because we are using 0.01. And if everything goes all right, if I use now the Vellum solver, I hope they don't explode like they did. Cool. So now they are not intersecting like they were before because the thickness is way smaller now. Pretty cool. If you have any problems with they are still clumping or something like that, or behaving the way you don't like, just play with stretch and bend. Okay. Sometimes I need to switch the damping, increase a little bit, but in this case, let's go with defaults, because I want to show you just a way to animate and give abstract movements to air. So now this is pretty simple, pretty boring, okay? So let's give waves to our airs. And one way that I'm going to show you is just using colliders. So let's put a grid. Let me turn off the normals. Let's go with 2. And this one, let's go with 20, maybe 40. So now I want to scatter some points here. And turn off relax and just decrease this to 50, maybe something like that. And what I want to do is place a sphere and use copy to points. Change the sphere to polygon. Okay, let's increase a little bit of frequency, not too much because that will be heavy on the collisions. Let's go copy to points. So we are going to use these spheres to collide with our airs. Simple as that. So now what I want is to randomize the P scale of our spheres. So let's go with randomize attribute. Normally I use vex and the wrangle to be faster, but I want to show you another ways to do this. So we want to use to create a P scale, right? And it is a dimension of 1. It's just a float. You don't have a vector. And let me see what this does. Let's go with 0.5 and 1.5. Maybe our grid could be bigger. Let's go with 40 and maybe decrease this to 20. Something like that, just to give you an idea what we are going to do. And now I I want to make the spheres fall down without gravity. We are moving the spheres by hand with the transform, and they are going to go inside our airs and making those wavy movements. So one way is to use a transform. So in our case, first we want to rotate these spheres. So here we want 90 degrees. And let's place another transform. As you may know, I like to have multiples transforms. So one is for rotate, the other one is to move. Let's place these in a starting position, something like this. Okay, let's go with round numbers. Let's go with 30. Let's keyframe it. And then let's go with 150 frame range for now. And at 150, I want it to go down, minus 30. So our spheres will do this animation. And as you see in the middle, they are going inside our airs. Pretty cool. So one thing that I want to do is just play a little bit with the global seed. Try and fix, get another one that is cooler. Okay, I think this one is cool. And I can see that our spheres are way too small. So let's go with 0.8 and then 2. Something like that. So we have our spheres. Let's place a null. Let's go with out colliders. And then we want to use these colliders to work with our hair. So one way to do that is that we are going to use the third input of our Vellum Hair. So as you may know, now let's go to frame 1. Our Vellum Hair is using these spheres as colliders. So let's go to Vellum Solver, and as you can see, now we have our colliders. So our scatter seed changed it a little bit on our spheres. I'm not really enjoying that. So okay, let's go with that 1.180. That's cool. I just want to give you the idea. So if I press play now, you are seeing our airs behaving, and they are stretching a lot, as you can see. And one thing that I know is that we don't have enough segments on our air gen. So here, let's go down. Let's increase this to 40. This will be heavier, of course, because we have more segments. We will have more waves. And let me check if the pinpoints are everything working. And on our stretch, we are using the maximum, but let's increase this a little bit. And as I said, I like to increase the damping ratio. And everything, I think it's fine for now. And I feel that our simulation is way too fast, our animation, sorry. So if you press shift click on the parameter, you can come here and change this to frame 300. And let's change them all to linear. Press enter. Now they will have a more linear animation. That is cool. On the third part, I will show you an even smoother way to create these waves. This is one cool way to do it faster. And now we have our basic guides. And now let's do as we did on the previous one. So this, let's duplicate this air gen. In this case, use guides. Everything else is okay. And here we want to work like with 2000. This will be really dense. And let's use those guides here. And we need to switch a few things. Remember, first, let's go with attribute and appearance and pass our colors. Cool. And as you may see, some of them are white because they are not being affected by the guides. So I'm just processing the frames 75. And now remember, we need to switch a few things here. So go on general, on use guides. Let's increase this. Let's go 0.2. Okay, cool. We still have those white spots. I think those are... Now everything is being affected. Cool. So this is one way to play with those wavy things. Of course, we should give more guides. As much guides as you can have, it's better, of course. And here, let's try and reduce a bit the size of our spheres. So let's go here. Let's switch again. Something like that. And I want to... Let's go 0.7 and here 0.5. Oops, sorry. And I think that is better. Let's see how they will behave with this one. And if you get a lot of tweakings, let's go here. I always think that the substeps are way too small. So let's go with 4. Normally with 4, they will really increase the behavior and the process of our hairs. But again, this is just one way and show you that you can do a lot of cool stuff with simple geometry as colliders and use them in a different way. So I've cached a little bit the guides until frame 90. We have a cool random stuff. So now with the hair gen, because we are using a lot of guides, we have a cool wavy animation. Pretty cool. And now, as you can see, we have a lot of hard edges. I think you can call it that. So one cool way is to resample. You can just resample those two subdivisions. And now we have more smooth hair. Pretty cool. Now, as you can see, we have a cool wavy thing. This is one way. One other way, if you want things more simple, let's go with the sphere. And this way, let's go with the sphere. See the hairs, and I want to see the sphere. Let's go increase, oops, wrong sphere. Go again, sphere. On this sphere, let's go to polygons. Let's go with 8. Let's increase this a bit. Let's place a transform. Oops, wrong one. Let's preview and still have the hairs. And on this one, I just want a simple, cool sliding animation. Okay, something like this. On frame 30, this is a cool spot for our sphere, and on frame 50, I want them to slide through our hairs. And maybe here I want to go a little bit inside. Cool. So now, as you can see, we have all the systems set up. you can just link that sphere to our out colliders, our null, and let's check the guides. Let's go press ESC to cancel animation, and let's go and check how this behaves. So let's see how the animation behaves. Pretty cool and super simple, and because we have everything working all right with our air gen density, we are dense air, so we have a cool trick. I think I'm going to save this one for the Instagram. So pretty cool. So this is one way to do it. Let's go up, and let's now start on the second one. So I'm going to turn off this one, and let's place another geo. Okay, let's go with airs circular, and we are going to make that a circular movement. So let's go back. Let's go and start now again with a circle like we did before. Okay, let's put it on the floor. Let's place a null. Place a null and call it base geo. Simple as that. Let me check the circle. We need to be polygons. Let's increase the divisions. And let me think. Let's start by placing our airgen. And let's go back. And I want to copy again these color airs. I want them to have always the same colors. If we can, that is going to be cool. So we have our airgen. Again, let's go with 50. And turn off the guides on this first one. And here I want something like 20. Cool. Maybe 20 is way too big. And for now, let's leave it like that. And let's pin the first points. This time, I'm going to move a lot our previous circle. So I want to show you another way to pin our points. So as you can see, we have multiple points, and each air will have 9 points, I think 0 until 8. Okay, because it's going to be on segments. As if I zoom out, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 segments. So you can use this number to control and pin on and group only the first points. So let's go with group range, group by range. And here I want to group points. Let's go with in points group. And right now it is selecting everything because we are saying select 1 point each 1 point. Okay, so if I switch here to 3, so we are going to select 1 point each 3 points. Okay, so select 1, 2, 3, select the next one, 1, 1, 2, 3, and select the other one. So in our case, we know that our segments are 8, so each air has 8 segments. So here we need to go with 8 plus 1. I was checking why it is not working, because I don't know, but I need to press on off to be able to write expressions. So 8 plus 1. So why plus 1? Because we always start counting with 0, right? So we select 1 point, move 8 segments, and select another one. So this will work for now because we have 8 segments. But if we switch this to 12, our group points will no longer work, and we need to keep this in a procedural way. So let's go here on segments, right click, let's copy parameter, and then come to group points, and here instead of 8, let's right click, and let's clean first this one. Right click, paste relative reference. So this will give us the same number, but we need to add 1. So let's go +1. So if we change our, if we change our airgen segments, for example, now I want to work with 60, this will always keep in track the first points of each air, because it is using the same number as the air segments. Okay, hope you understand this one. I think it's easier than working with the volume. So as you may remember, we use a transform on the first one, and we starting to rotate this. So let's rotate this depending on the time. It is always rotating, and we want to rotate only the pinpoints group. So we are doing that. And now let's go with Vellum, config air. Again, always the same principle, and Vellum solver. Link everything. And here on Vellum air, remember, we need to pin those point groups and match the animation. And now this will behave like we had on the first part. Same principle, same setup. Pretty cool. So now if I want to turn this into a more dense air, right? We can come here, right click, create reference copy to have always the same values as this air gen. So right now what I want is Control Shift click on density to clear the link, and here click on everything here. So use guides, and let's clean everything else. So just hold Control Shift and you can click everything. And here on attributes, we need to pass our colors. Oops, so we need to link the guides. Let's place a null. Oops, let's place a null. Let's call it guides. Okay, and here on our dense airgen, let's pass our color. Cool, and remember we need to tweak that value, that influence radius. Let's go with 0.2. Let's go with 0.1. No, let's go 0.2. If you see white airs, that is bad. So, and of course we need to change this. Let's go to 4000. Same setup as we did on the first part, but now I want to move our airs, right? Let's go and create just a few things. So now I want to have a circular movement to our airs. So let's start by doing that. So we have our gens, our group, we are rotating. So now we are going to add transforms here to move our points. So first I want to move them to the side. Let's go with 2. Let's go with 3. Okay, we are moving that, and now we are going to rotate. Transform, another one. So here let's go with rotate pin points. Move to side, and then rotate by the origin. Okay, as the name says, we are going now to rotate by the origin. Very cool. So now, as you can see, we have to rotate on the Z. So let's go 150. So now, as you can see, we are rotating. But as we did previously, I want just to move our pinpoints. In this case, move to the side, I want to move everything, but we will still move and rotate those pinpoints. And on our rotate by the origin, right now we are moving everything, but this one I want, as the first one, rotate only the pinpoints. Cool. So now if I check my volume solver, let's see how it behaves. Let me increase the simulation cache memory because I have a few, so I can increase that. And I'm going to cache until 150 and let's see how it goes. Okay, so I've cached everything and now we have this cool fluid animation. I really enjoy this one. Even with the low air density, I really enjoy this movement. So now if I check my guides, it won't work and I will show you how and why. So I have my air gen I'm creating here on the middle because we are using the base geometry, right? So right now it is not working. And let me explain you why. Because let me try and use some colors here. Let's go with the blue. So these ones are my dense air, right? So we have these dense airs. And our guides at this moment, they are here. So these ones, these airs, the final density dense airs, they cannot see the guides. They are not being affected by the guides because the guides are way too far for them to work. So we need to find a way to move our final air into the same position as the guides. So in other words, we know that our airs are being generated on the basic geometry, right? And we are if we move that base geometry as we move the guides, again, as we did here. So we are spinning, we move to the side and rotate. So if we apply these transforms to this base geometry, we are going to move our final airs. So let me go and try to quickly explain it. So if we then move this base geometry, we are moving the final airs to the same place as our guides. And if they are close enough, then our guides will affect the dense air. So let me show what I mean in Houdini, because I think that is better, right? So what we need is to apply these transforms into our circle, because our circle is the one generating our air gens. So now let's go and select this and actions, create reference, copy. Why am I creating reference copy? Because this way every single thing on these transforms are linked to the original one. So for example, you want to switch the velocity of our spinning. Let's go and reduce it a little bit. So I changed from 200 to 150. You will see this reference copy. Now it is using the channel as we did here. So any change that we do on the reference copy, it will affect here because everything is linked. So this way we can just come here and link these transforms here. So as you can see, now our base geometry is on the same spot as our airs, as our guides. And when we move, of course, we need to tweak one thing. We need to clean those point groups. So let's clean this. Sorry, I forgot about this. So this one doesn't have. On the last one, we need to clean the group. So that is the only thing. To clean again, Control-Shift click, or you can just come here and delete channels. So now we are applying to everything. So let me go again and explain. So we are moving the base geometry as we did on our airs. Okay, so as you can see, we have our basic geometry airs. So because we are doing that, let me cut this wire. And because we are doing that, our final air is moving too. Pretty cool. But if we use the guides now, let me process this a little bit until frame 60. It is fast enough, so can still record. So we have our final airs. Let me turn off this one. Okay, so we have our simulated airs, and because our air gen now is starting here, we will have a cool dense simulation. Okay, so now, as you can see, our dense air is moving with the guides. Let me go and add a little bit. Okay, very cool, right? So one other thing that you might want to do is to don't cut this straight line, right? Because we are using a circle, a flat circle. All our guides, all our airs will start on the same place. So remember what I said about having the null. Now we can play with the base geometry before the null. So let's add a mountain and destroy a little bit our circle. So let's add our mountain. And as you can see, we are changing a little bit the basic geometry. Let's increase this. So now our airgen will start with that. But as you can see, and as I said, our airgen will use the normals, right? And first, let me go, because I can see that we have a few issues here. And we need to subdivide our polygons first. Let's subdivide these. Add maybe 2, 4. So we have more rings of polygons. Okay, now we can break this. And now let's tell our airgen to use the geometry. But as I said on the first part, airgen is using the normals to create the airs, right? The splines. So what we need to do is just place a simple wrangle. Let's place a point wrangle. And let's tell it our normals. Oops. Why can't I? Okay, wrong keyboard. Our normals will be a simple vector pointing down. So we are saying all our normals are a vector pointing down. Now, if I press the airgen, now all our guides are going to the floor, to the bottom, right? As we did previously. So now, if I cache everything, we are breaking that that first part, that flat area, right? One thing that you might need if you want to crank this up and push for Houdini, you might need to cache your simulation. So you can use a Vellum IO. Okay, just link everything here. And this is like a file cache. You can have the name of your cache, load from disk, and save to disk. In my case, I'm not going to use because we are keeping things simple. So we have a really low density. Let me cache then a little bit this animation and be right back. Okay, so I cached until 180 or 200. So we have this cool animation. Pretty cool. And now if I turn on airgen, you can see that sometimes that our guides will break. So in order to fix that, remember, you can always come here and increase a little bit this number until you lose all the white airs. Okay, still need a little bit more. Even more. Can I play with influence decay? Let's try. Okay, let's leave it to 2. Now let's increase this to 5. Okay, so those ones are being really tricky. Come on. Oops. There might be because of the mountain. Okay, so I'm losing I'm losing the battle against these ones. So I guess the base geometry is way too irregular to avoid those white airs. But let's move on. Other way, you can just decrease a little bit this 8 It's way too abrupt, too strong. So they don't have enough guides. Or if you want to leave the mountain as it is, you can increase the number of guides. Simple. So now let's go and resample as we did previously. Sorry, my English. And let's apply subdivision. At start we don't see much, but when we move further, we keep things more fluid. This is a really nice shot here. Pretty cool. And let me try and avoid those white. So right now it is like that. So some of you asked me how to tweak the thickness of the hairs. For example, the tip will be larger than the point. Okay, so I have different P scales during the length of our hairs. So we are using a resample, so we can just come here and apply a curve U attribute. This curve U attribute is adding a parameter to our points on our hair. So to explain you what it is doing, let me use my drawing skills again. So we have an hair like this, right? And our curve U is creating a float that goes from 0 to 1. So on the starting point, it will be 0 and 1. So we have multiple points here. So each point, for example, on the middle will be 0.5 on curve U. This one will be 0.9. And here will be 0.2. Okay, so each point will have a different curve U depending the position on each hair. So this way we know which point is at the start, and each one is on the tip, on the final point of the hair. So that way we can just come here on point VOPs, apply a point VOP, and let's go use a bind. With this node we can go and pick any attribute that we have, and we know that we have a curve U, and it is a float, as I said, that goes from 0 to 1. So we can just link this to a ramp. And switch this to a spline. And let's go and create a parameter. And let's go with the scale value. Copy this, and label will be, and our default, let's go with 0.001. It's the minimum for hairs to use on Redshift. So we have our P scale, and now we can just multiply this P scale by our ramp and export this. Bind export and export this as a P scale. So let's go up. So what we are saying is that our oops, what is this? So I forgot to. I copied the wrong one. Okay, P scale, P scale. So now out we have the P scale value. So this is the maximum P scale. So what we want to say is that on the start with 0. So we are multiplying this value by this P scale. So on the start will be thinner, will be 0 P scale, then increase until the maximum, okay, 0.1. And close to the end, after the half of the hair, it will start decreasing until 0. So imagine this is the length of our hair. Remember on my cool super Photoshop. So we are saying this hair, remember this range is the same as we have here. So our hair, I will try to simulate this. So don't troll me. So we are trying to make something. Oops. Here will be super small. Then it's starting to increase. and then start to decrease. Oops, I'm trying to decrease this. We will have something like this. This will be the length or the thickness of our hair because of this ramp. And again, remember to use this on Redshift. We covered this on the first part, so I'm going to jump that. Again, the color is a primitive attribute, so we need to promote. In other words, change that attribute from primitive to point and change our color. So now our color will be a point attribute. Simple, and place a null. Oops. Let's go with circular hairs. And that's pretty much it for this one. I covered the render settings are always the same. With Redshift, I covered that on first part, so I hope you enjoyed this one. It's really cool to have this way, and now you can move your guides the way you want, and just you need to be sure that you move our basic geometry too, because your final dense hair need to be close enough to your guides to be affected. So I hope you enjoyed this one. On the next one, it will be really cool because we are going to create a more fluid and abstract animation now using Pyro. We are going to use volumes to advect our hairs. So stay tuned, and I hope you enjoyed this one. Thank you so much. And please let me know in the comments if the quality is good, because right now I'm trying to record this in 4K resolution. So let me know if the quality is good. Thank you so much, and hope you enjoyed this one. See ya.